So my disclaimer here about what I'm talking about here with international selling is I'm not an attorney, I'm not a tax professional, I'm just someone who has gone down the path and just wants to help other people. There's a lot of great people, like some of the ones that I've mentioned, who some of them are even here in the building. And a lot of those great people help me and help my mindset, and I want to pay it forward to others. And if you don't have a tax professional, go see one. But I'll go into a lot of strategies that are going to help you. And of course, everything I'm saying here, as far as like percentages and numbers, it's really just more for illustration purposes. But if you sell on Amazon, I think you understand all that. Now, selling internationally gives you the chance to expand your empire. And that's kind of the way I like to look at it, is you're expanding an empire. Now, there are some myths, I would say, about selling outside of the US. Oftentimes, people think the Canadian Mounted Police is going to be there waiting to get them or come to their house. How dare you try to bring goods into our country? That doesn't happen. As long as you're acting in good faith and you're not trying to get cocaine across the border, generally speaking, things get worked out. And oftentimes, people think you need to be a 7 or 8 figure seller to sell international. It's not worth it until then. Well, for me, it was all about the numbers of expanding out and getting bigger as time went on. And I actually started in Canada when I had 1 active product and I had 4 more that the factory was making for me. And oftentimes, people think, well, it's going to make your taxes really complicated. Your CPA can figure this out. I live in suburban West Palm Beach, and my CPA is fascinated by everything I tell him in my business because I think everyone else he deals with is brick and mortar. So he doesn't have like a international business where he's taking care of taxes for all these international businesses. He understands it because it's basic math. Or people think it's hard to keep up with the currency differences. Again, it's basic math. Or that the registrations are hard. Sometimes people just get intimidated when they see like government of the UK or something at the top of a form. The forms are there because they want you to fill them out. Or that you have to learn a whole new channel. Well, the reality of it is, Seller Central for the UK looks just like Seller Central for the US, except the money symbol just looks different. That's about it. So why sell internationally? Well, for one, you're going to get access to new customers and new sales that you would not have gotten if you didn't at least take your listings, put them in the new marketplace, and just take a little bit of inventory just to test it out. And again, this is without having to learn a whole new channel. I'm in the middle of going into Walmart. I'm excited to go into Walmart, diversify, cast a wider net. But what I'm learning about Walmart is the mechanics are very different. Anyone in Walmart? I may have to talk to you later on. So it also helps you when you're selling internationally, sell through your inventory faster. You don't necessarily have to buy that much more inventory than what you're buying now. You can sell through it more quickly, which leads to faster profits. And those profits, you can reinvest back into your business to grow into other things. Who has heard some other speaker tell you something that you're like, I want to do that, but I may have to invest some money in that? Anybody? So if you have something else, you're like maybe thinking, well, maybe I don't have the funds to afford it. Maybe selling internationally is the way to help you afford growing in other ways. Because I think there's all kinds of different ways you could grow your business. Now, another thing I will say is selling internationally is somewhat of an insurance policy. I use insurance policy because I did work in the insurance business, against financial downfalls. We don't know what the future holds, but the reality is history tells us right now we're in a good economy. Eventually, it could come down. So if your business lost 20, 30%, wouldn't you want to have that being made up somewhere else? Also, it gives you the chance to maximize your holiday sales. Now, I took this screenshot there of my previous 30-day sales on December 19th. I guess if I wanted a better screenshot, I probably could have taken it like 3-4 days later, but that just happens to be when I sold it. But you can see there, in the US, I had sold about $103,000 in sales. And if you add up the international channels, Canada and Europe and pennies there in Japan, it was about $28,000 for that 30-day time period during the holidays. So the good news is we're coming like 2 weeks away, I think, from the fourth quarter, and we're getting pretty close to the holiday season. So if your product does well in the holidays, chances are it's going to do well in the holidays in other countries as well. So ask yourself this question: what would you do with an extra 10, 20, 30% in sales doing something you already know how to do, and that's sell on Amazon and taking the products that you're already selling? Now, you may be thinking, well, but I heard it's hard to figure out. You got to jump through all these hoops. Well, what I've come to realize is those who do things that others won't do will get the results others can't have. Because if you're willing to cast a wider net and do some of these things, jumping through hoops, you're going to do a lot better than your competition. And I want you to think of it this way too. Right now, if you're not in international marketplaces, since you've been here at this conference, customers have gone on to amazon.ca, amazon.co.uk, put in search terms just like how they do in the US, and they've bought your competitors' products because your product might not have been available. If your product was available, you would have gotten sales, and your competitor wouldn't. And then you also, on the flip side, have competitors that aren't willing to jump through these hoops so you can get some of the sales they would have gotten. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but am I able to figure all this international stuff out? Well, let me ask you this question. This is going to sound silly, but who's completed 6th grade? Or whatever it is in the country you grew up. Who has a driver's license or a passport? Then you have the technical abilities required to sell internationally. Now, you may be saying, yes, it's good. So here's the thing. And you may be saying, well, how did you come up with that, Kevin? My sister is an elementary school principal, actually in Richardson, which is the other side of town here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I asked her, if I was to say $1 in the US is equivalent to $1.3 in Canada, therefore, $20 in the US is how much in Canada, what grade level would figure that out? She goes, oh, that's basic ratios, so that's 6th grade. And then the forms are, again, no more difficult than the forms you would fill out than if you were going to get a driver's license or a passport. And if you're able to do that, you have the abilities to do what I'm talking about here.